Gloriane Harris going. Basically, we started this exhibition in about 2019. We presented it first in 2020 on February 8th at our gallery in downtown at the Bendix building with a retrospective of 50 years of Gloriane Harris's work. We had the opening, which was extremely well attended, and sold a few paintings, but then COVID happened and we got slammed. And so the work went away and was hidden in a tomb in the Bendix building until August, when we retrieved the work finally. We were able to finally retrieve the work and put it in storage. And the BG gallery, in particular, was so gracious. He asked us to show some of the work in his gallery. So we had a representation of the retrospective, in part, some major works that had never been seen before at Ohm's gallery, at the BG gallery in the Bergamot station, which was very, very successful. And now we're following up with an online version of 50 Years of Oil and Water, Gloriane Harris, 1969 to 2020. But also, we have some wonderful paintings that are from 2021, and also some paintings from very earlier in her career. So I'd like to introduce you to Gloriane Harris. Welcome to the show, Gloriane. How are you?
Thank you. I'm good, Juri. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm just excited to interview you for this. This has been a wonderfully long process, not only for your career, but also for the show itself. Yeah. But really proud to be doing this. I want to also thank Izzy and Hannah for helping us out with the technical
definitely
work on the show. That Hannah will be switching in artwork as we go. So, Gloriane, you've had an incredibly, you've had a very successful career, but also a very unusual one. You started painting very early in life, and
right.
I want to show everyone the painting called First Wave from 1960. This was painted when you were 13 years old. When it comes up on the screen, you'll see it too. I'd like you to describe how you came about doing this. Hannah, can you put First Wave up? It's in the artsy catalog, but it's also on the that one. Yeah, click on that, and then make it large if you can. Like if you can, I don't know if you can make it bigger or if you can view.
Okay, that's good. That's great.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, perfect, Hannah. Thanks. Okay, so tell us about what made you paint this painting and how you got started making art.
Well, this was sort of a point of complete understanding of painting for me. It was a painting that I did because I loved the beach. I loved going to the beach. I was there all the time. I surfed as a kid. I had a surfer boyfriend as a kid. And so I spent a lot of time swimming in the water, even at night. And so it just meant a lot to me, even though, at the time I already knew it was a little possibly kitsch because it was the Laguna Beach, curse of the commercial that you always wanted to avoid. And I was too young to really realize that at that point. So I just thought it was a very representative painting of what California looked like to me at the time. And I was just a Santa Monica Beach girl, lived in Venice and lived in Santa Monica most every day. So, and then I gave it to a boyfriend, and about 30 years later, I ended up buying it back from somebody. It came all the way back around to me, which was an interesting anecdote. I had to buy my own painting back, but I'm glad I have it. It's a very sentimental painting probably to me.
Yeah, well, it does have it has a hybrid feel in terms of like its location. My first reaction as a surfer myself would be to say, what wave is that? What specific spot is that? But it could be a number of different breaks along the California coast,
Yeah,
especially
it
ones
was
that
probably
are.
a confluence of what I saw as I drove up and down the coast to Malibu and Mac and Zuma and all those places.
It
Yeah,
shows a lot
it
of
was
it.
the light I started becoming aware of kind of young.
Say that
It was
again. I interrupted you.
reinforced by my teachers.
So I interrupted you. Say that again.
Oh, the light was really important to me when I was young, which my teachers sort of reinforced as I was painting these early paintings.
And did people comment to you about how accomplished it was for a 13-year-old young woman?
Yeah, I sold a lot of stuff when I was real young. I was sort of thought of as a, prodigy. It was easy to sell when you're a child and you paint realism. It was pretty easy. I did a lot of commission paintings, but then I decided I didn't like working with people telling you what to do. So commissioning was not high on my list.
Okay, so then you got older and you went to college. Where did you study?
Well, I
Painting?
went to USC first, thinking that they had a good art department. And I just didn't really care for their art department. It was very, very slow because it was taught by assistant teachers. It wasn't really taught often by the actual teacher. So it was sort of disappointing. And after 2 years there, I did my basic work, which I was actually in architecture for a long time. And that's where I got my real basic design education. And then I moved from USC to Otis. I was the 50th person to get in for that year because each year they only allowed 50 people in the school because there were only 200 people in the entirety of the campus. So
what year was that?
It was 1966.
Wow. Okay. So
Yeah,
Hannah,
Billy, wow, back in the day.
yeah, Hannah, I'm gonna ask you to go to the let's go to one of the early abstract the one geometrical abstract works. Let's go for this one, the one on the right that you just passed. I forget the name of it, but if you scroll down a tad, not the totem, go back a little bit and we'll go to the square one, the one that was in the ad today. The one on the bottom right. Yeah, that one. Yeah. Okay. So let's look at this for a minute, Gloriane. Okay. So when we were looking at your work, Hannah, let's see the blue bottom. Let's make it a tad smaller and see the whole blue bottom on it. Thanks for going through all this, Hannah. I appreciate the work. We want to see the blue around the whole thing. If possible, if they'll let us, if Artsy will let us. Anyway, so Gloriane, you went to Otis and you started doing geometrical abstraction, which in my opinion was way ahead of its time. And that's attested by a recent sale of your work at the BG Gallery that was done during this period. So talk to us about how you transitioned from realistic painting to this and how it related to what your concerns were with painting and with color and with how color resonates against other colors.
By the time I had arrived at Otis, I had had a significant background in abstract expressionism, because that's what was being pushed during my era. And a lot of ugly, basically, a lot of black. And as I moved into Otis, there was an enormous stress on classical drawing, but the painting was still very loose, very abstract expressionist, but it was starting to lean a little bit more toward cubism in a way. And the teachers were quite varied that I had. So when I went into graduate school, as after being at Otis for 2 years, my painting area was deemed, you must paint religious subject matter. And I said to myself, that won't be me. And so my major was design / painting. So I worked basically with color, shape, and design more than the traditional painting that was being, again, forced upon me. So I cheated my way with painting and was allowed to go very abstract and design elements, but yet work within oil paint, because I made a deal with them. I was on scholarship and they had a hard time saying no to me because I was pretty darn good at almost everything. So I loved everything, sculpture, you name it. I even did jewelry at night because they didn't have a jewelry teacher. So I learned how to do that as well. But these paintings, this is a very large painting, it's 7 by 7. So by the time I was at Otis, I really wanted to work large. I wanted to be able to spread my arms out and have that kind of really personal, physical contact with the painting. I did have to climb ladders up and down and up and down. Unfortunately, I was young enough at the time to get the work. I graduated at 23, so I was still pretty young when I started teaching. I was almost the same age as a lot of my students. So I progressed in that area for quite a while until after I graduated, but I got burned out of certain things sort of quickly. So I liked to move forward in my work. I don't like to stagnate. I just kind of want to keep pushing forward and discovering new things. But my color, I can't seem to get away from it. If I try to make them dark, they don't come out dark. I just love that vibrant, vibrating element of color that resonates. It resonates a lot of emotion as well as just the color itself, but it changes in your lighting in your house. The paintings change, so they talk to you as the person who owns them. So they do their own talking by themselves, hopefully.
Yeah, well, this particular painting, Vibrations in the Interior, was actually painted around 1970, 69 or 70. The date is incorrect on the thing, but when we opened this painting up and took the remnants of the plastic that had covered it for 50 years, when we went to your house and took it out of the garage and opened it up, it looked exactly like this. This photograph was taken the minute all the old plastic was taken off. It had never been seen since then.
No, it hadn't.
And one of the things that's wonderful about the work that we've been seeing is that nobody has ever really seen it. So, Hannah, what I'd like you to do is just pick out the work in this kind of genre, and show 2 or 3 of the works in this genre that they're going to be all hard edge geometric abstraction. And then we're going to end with the one that's called, what's it called, Gloriane? The one that the one that is the break between these and the next style. What's that called again? It's a Sunset Green Flash or something. No, that's the other one.
Oh,
anyway,
which one?
Well, this one. Okay, so what we're going to do, Hannah, is we're going to show these. Okay, so these are examples of this era. the kind of
Right.
work you are doing. And I love the, this is 48 by 48 inches. And I love the way that the color works together. It's very, very unique use of color, not anything like anything you'll see anywhere else. Hannah, if you can show the two totems, or at least one of them, the big, tall, thin ones. Yeah, that one. Yeah. So these were bolted together paintings, which there's two of these that we know of. There's totem 1 and totem 2, all done during that same time. There's also a very large painting that we showed at the gallery at the Bendix building, which we don't have a picture of. That's pretty amazing. But show this one, the one we just went by, the maroon one, the sunset evening, or it's what's called evening shade. This is a gorgeous painting. This is another indication of the depth of awareness that you have with color. And tell me some of your influences when it comes to color, in terms of your, obviously your work doesn't look like anybody else's, but what's your influences when it comes to color itself?
I would say I don't have a particular artist that is a specific influence. I would say probably Monet and Van Gogh probably are my two most.
What about Mark Rothko?
He didn't influence me in color as much as soft edge with his color. That's where he really got me, was his kind of gooey, blurry, weird, sharp and soft edge at the same time. He has such a strange edginess, but the color was more really my own. It just kept coming out from when I was very young. And I found that no matter how hard I tried to change my color palette, I really can't. Now this painting is sort of an unusual painting of mine. I don't tend to paint this evening kind of painting very often.
Well, I would beg to differ, because there's several paintings that we're about to show that do talk about that. But
yeah, some of them aren't as dark. As this one has a real nice vibrance, even though it's kind of dark. It's maybe a tad lighter in reality, I think.
Yeah. Hey, Hannah, can you show the one that I was referring to earlier, the one that has the white in the middle? That one, the one on the bottom left. Yeah, that one. Okay, so now let's talk about this one. This one's called Next Eclipse of Green. And what this is, for the folks who are listening and watching, this is a transition piece that is a very, very important piece in your body of work, in that it provides a transition point between what is the structure of a painting and what is the field of a painting, the color field, or the brush strokes, the strokes. Because in a lot of the early hard edge abstract geometric paintings, you can see the brush strokes, and they're not hidden. You can see them, but they're not as visible. And what this painting does is it shows your process in terms of the geometric aspect of it, but also the
exactly.
The
you can even see the snap lines I used to construct the ellipses. I left everything exposed.
So tell me about why you think this is an important painting in your career, or this, at least in this transition period.
I couldn't think of any other way to kind of expose the way I was working, but I found that there was this rhythmic stroke going on underneath all of this hard edge painting that was leading me to a softer edge. And I had this kind of need to expose it like a cracked open egg, so you could see all the way through the process of how these paintings had come to be. They weren't just hard edge. There was all of this other wild stuff going on underneath, and very tiny brush. made some of these very big areas. And I thought it would be, it was just sort of a breakthrough mentally for me. And then I liked the visual of it. And it did move me forward into the next stages. And I did a number of these. They're, I think, the larger ones. There's some larger ones of this.
I've never seen any other ones that show the canvas.
Yeah, there's one hidden in the garage stuck.
Oh, yay, we have a discovery to
Yes, we do.
Fantastic. I cannot wait. We were barely able to pull the works out of the garage that we got anyway, because there was so much to look at.
Will kind of hold, so.
Yeah. Well, the experience of working with you on this retrospective has been very, very important to me, both in terms of like my awareness of your work. I've been aware of your work since 1980 or 81, I think 81. And it's just been really a wonderful experience to get to know your work, even when you think you know everything about someone's work. And then all of a sudden you discover things that are like, wow, that's really cool. And so what I'd like to do now is I'd like to go into the works that start in the early 80s. So Hannah, why don't you pick something you like from the early 80s? Any of the ones, like, for example, let's start with the one on the right. This is called Fossil Air. And if you guys look behind me, it's on the wall behind me. I'm lucky enough to have it in my living room. I was there. In fact, I visited your studio one day when you were painting this, which was really, really quite astounding. And that this photograph that we used to advertise the show is you sitting in front of this painting. So this is the next step from the previous painting. So describe what these mean to you, what they're about. Obviously, we're looking for a cut to the chase sort of answer, but try to be as expansive as you can within that.
I was taking an object, which I don't often do, and I didn't want it to be just floating in a nebulous environment. So I used the Channel Island drawing and repeated it 3 times behind it, and then gave it a shadow, so that it was actually painted from an actual petrified oyster that was from the Channel Islands that someone had given me. And I had not painted some item as an object for a very long time. And it sort of slid into this environment without too much floating, but it was one of those unique elements that sort of appears in my paintings periodically, like a person has not appeared for a long time. But that's basically where that one went. And it's definitely a Channel Island painting all the way.
Okay, so let's talk about, hey, Hannah, why don't you, this is an amazing painting. I've always loved it. It's one of my favorites. Hannah, why don't you go with one of the long horizontal paintings, like let's say the blue one on the top there on the right. Yeah, that one. Okay, so this one I think was painted before. Actually, we have a better photograph of that. Well, go ahead and blow it up. We'll look at it the way it is. We have an actual killer photograph of this. I think.
That's a pretty large painting, yeah.
Okay, well, this painting, I believe that the actual original image of this is actually like, formally photographed. This is actually a picture of this in the BG gallery, which is cool. This is a Prussian Eve or something. I forget the title of it, but it's this painting is about 8 feet wide, and it's about 36 inches high. I'm not quite sure the exact dimensions,
roughly.
But it's very, very big. And tell us about this structure, this geometric structure. I mean, besides obviously the color of this image is gorgeous. It's very personal. Oh, this is the
There we
one.
go.
Yeah, this is very personal to me in terms of its structure.
Okay, it's definitely evening again on the water.
So tell us about what
The
this.
structure of it is very broken down simply. You go from the horizon line, and the first triangle on the front is representative of the boat. And the two colors on the side are the two colors of the water that you are on the flat. As you move upwards, the long triangle in the background is the island, and then the two other triangles are part of the sky and how the sky, shifts
Very
from
cool.
dark to light.
So,
And without, going with soft edges, but there's lots of stroke and a lot of layering and a lot of basically thin coats of different colors. Underneath all of that blue, there's probably a lot of orange and red and all kinds of colors.
Okay,
before
so
you get to the final color. I glaze a lot.
okay, so Hannah, why don't you flip to another one of these long horizontal ones, and then Gloriane, why don't you walk us through your the ones that have the older ones, Hannah, that have that one. Yeah, how about that one? Yeah, the one on the bottom middle, the other one. Yeah, the purple one on the bottom, that one right there. Yeah. Okay, so Gloriane, why don't you talk to us about your use of glazing technique and how this whole process, because before, when you were talking to us earlier about your technique, you were telling us how you used a small brush. I think you usually use a number 10 oil painting brush, one of your favorite brushes that you still have from my memory. And then you use a classical oil glazing technique, meaning multiple layers of very thin, translucent paint that has very little color in it, and multiple layers, 30 or 40 layers. So describe us the process of painting this. And you have a rhythm when you paint. We've done a documentary about you, and you have a rhythm when you paint.
Yes, this was one of the earlier ones done. It's again a long, skinny one. It's rather large.
This is 24 inches by 72 inches.
Yeah, it's a pretty big one, and this one was more like a rolling wave in the same genre as the islands, because you can see the same triangles, but as the triangles were elongated on the bottom, the long triangle here flipped over and became a wave. So a lot of them, they morph from one thing to another. And the painting here, this is when I was really early working in more glazing, as my strokes went from the small brush to a little bit larger brush. And I like to work on canvas with sable brushes, which is really now becoming very expensive. So I've experimented with my more, what are they called? The new acrylic style brushes, which work pretty good. But yes, I do have a rhythm, because there are exposed areas left over as I paint, and those I have to wait till drying time, whether it's 2-3 days or whatever it is, depending on the weather, before I can go back and paint another color or even another coat of something similar to make it more brilliant. But yeah, there's a lot of drying time in between. So sometimes you have to have more than one thing going at a time, or you don't get enough done.
But basically the glazing technique, for most folks know about this, but the classical Renaissance style glazing technique means that multiple layers of paint that have very little, they're very translucent layers. Da Vinci used it. It's been used over the years.
Oh yes, it's a very old classic. I've probably developed my own method because I mix up my own. I even use Damar varnish where you're not supposed to. I do use peculiar stuff. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I'm always experimenting with some thinning agent or other. Sometimes it makes them take weeks and weeks to dry, which is kind of unpleasant, but nevertheless, there's so many things out there, and then you tend to return to your usual techniques of things that make you happy. But yeah, I mix up a lot of my own conglomerations of stuff.
So Hannah, let's go to the Kilauea one. I believe it's above you. That one. Yeah, the one you showed before. This is a more recent one. This was done relatively recently, and this is part of your fascination with volcanoes, but it's also another example of your expansion of your use of glazing, but also a bit, it feels like a bit of a bigger brush, or at least a little more, less defined even strokes in this one.
Yes, and that one also very glazed, very, very thin. And I had never been to Kilauea Halemaumau crater prior to this painting. And I don't know what happened, but one day it was like Pele was talking to me, and I had to paint Kilauea on the edge of Halemaumau crater, which I'd never been to. So later on in that year, my brother moved to Hawaii with the Kilauea and the Halemaumau crater. So I actually got to go stand on the same edge that I had seen in my head as a vision to Halemaumau is up and active again right now.
Very cool. Very
yeah.
cool. So we're going to transition now to some abstract work. I mean, some other more abstract work. What I'd like to do, Hannah, is show a few of the watercolors, the smaller ones, the 18 by 24 watercolors, which are going to you can flip through them. There's the smaller works on paper. You'll be able this one is a good one. Yeah. These are examples of your watercolor work, which I love. And I just want to show these show a few of these. These are an example of there's a series of these. This is called Vapor and Calm. It's from 2019, which is actually the most recent one in your whole body of work. But you've been doing a series of these since around 1979 or actually 84. Right. 79 to 84, I think, was when you were doing most of them. Yeah. But you've got hundreds of these, and these are amazing. And I want everybody who is eventually watching this or watching this tonight to pay attention to these, because these are amazingly gorgeous and, in my opinion, strikingly stealthy, because they look simple, but they're very, very much not. Anybody who uses watercolor, I know Catherine Ruane is here.
They're pretty darn calculated.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, anybody who uses water-based media understands how hard these are. Hannah, flip through one or two more. I think we might have 2 or 3 more in the group. Those two, yeah. Mm-hmm. So this is another one. This is called Channel Islands Past, 2019. And then show that gray one. Yeah, that one. I love that one. And this is Smoke and Fog. This is actually really gorgeous. It's one of my favorites. So let's move forward. We're gonna be wrapping up soon. But you see the one, Hannah, the one you just looked up, the one at the top, Texas Flood, the purple one. Yeah, tell us about this, Gloriane. Tell us how you decided to do this. This was at we showed this work at Intangible in Paint, yes, at our gallery in San Pedro, and this had just been finished at the time. We had you showed work with Mason and Gay Summer Rick and Catherine Ruane and Jean Dunn, and it was a wonderful show. tell us about this particular piece and what your motivation was, because this piece, in my opinion, really harkens back to your geometric abstraction work, but also stays within your, it's actually a really unique piece in your body of work. One of which is because your strokes are side to side instead of in that typical bottom right to top, bottom left to top right stroke. Yeah.
Yeah, this was just something that had caught my attention, from watching it, a number of days in a row during one of the horrible floods in Texas. And when I saw it, it was so graphic, and it did remind me of the gem-like qualities of the houses, and then everything was defined by the fences, and there was so much geometry going on, and it just made me think of my own work, only in a slightly different way. So it was sort of a challenging thing to combine this element of realism with the same thing that I had been working with in the Channel Islands, but not make it an unpleasant story about the flood, and kind of, there was just sort of this natural grayness, which to me came out very colorful in a way, but I think that's my natural tendency to, put the good side of something bad is happening. I didn't want to make it a gruesome kind of painting, but yeah, it was done in the same glazed way. But yeah, it's a kind of a unique takeoff. It started me, actually, that was the first one that began my COVID series of peculiar paintings.
Yeah, we're gonna go to those now. So basically, what I really like about this is another transition piece. It relates very much to the one we talked about. So Hannah, how about if we go to let's see, scroll down for us. Okay, let's start with this beautiful one in the middle, because to me that's kind of an enigma. And one of the things that I really like about this piece is that it brings elements of your original water feeling. One of the through lines of your work throughout your career, to me, has been how natural phenomena is so powerful, and it's overpowering and beautiful at the same time, in its strength and in its depth of feeling. And so you've always been very consistently, since the very first painting we showed everyone, you've very consistently believed in environmental factors as related to your belief in color.
Fire, water. Kind
Say that again.
Those elements need to be within there somewhere.
Earth, air, fire, water.
Earth, air, fire, water. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us how you. Hannah, while Gloriane is talking now, we're gonna. There's several other paintings within this genre that have either gold or silver leaf on them. So feel free to just hold them up on screen. While Gloriane, why don't you tell us how you got into this body of work?
I had never seen anybody contemporary working that much with gold or silver leaf. It just occurred to me one day, because I had some sitting around during COVID, that I needed something to just sort of jar my sensibilities. And unless, I was going to paint a religious painting with the gold glow or the silver glow around the angel, I thought, well, okay, let's start with basic shapes and play with them and see what happens, and see how oil painting and leaf, gilding can actually be integrated into itself without giving a religious connotation. So now this one is an exploding star.
This one happens to be the property of the Venice Institute of Contemporary Art, I have everyone know. I'm very proud to own this. We're very proud to own this painting because it's the weirdest one that I've seen you do in a very long time, and I just freaking love it.
Yeah, it's an exploding star. It's a double square. And I just started really enjoying what the combination of the reflective surface did when I painted over it, because you could paint that real thin or a little thicker and it would, it sort of dissipates itself. It sort of disintegrates, depending on what kind of material you're using. But I needed some real super distraction. So I was just really challenging myself. And then I discovered that, I can't remember his name right offhand, that there's a man who does super gilding.
Oh, you mean Zadikian?
Yes. And I was really impressed that there was somebody else out there doing it. And it reflects so different in different lights. It has sort of a magical quality. And I'm continuing to explore it because it is actually very stimulating in terms of my imagination. This one's called Beam, and
it's really interesting how the triangle and the line that's coming down sort of block the.
Yeah, and I like the metallic with the colors that I use. Actually, I didn't think I would, but they're really challenging to paint. They weren't easy.
And let's see one or two more.
I needed something that was challenging.
Yeah, let's see 2 or 3 more of these. So I'm really, really excited because what we're seeing now, to everybody in the audience, is a whole
They're
series.
Actually studies, by the way, because they're kind of small.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I can't imagine doing a gigantic one of these, but if you do, let me know and we'll be sure to show them.
I'm going to do some larger ones than these. These are rather tiny. I mean, for me, that they're very small.
Well, they're gorgeous. And what's wonderful about them is they have elements of all your previous work. This one, the abrupted, there's this one. And
yeah, that's called the Doors.
Show the one
or doors.
Show the one above it, Hannah.
Oh, that's my Event Horizon. That's my newest one.
Yeah, this one I love. That's
a very personal painting.
Yeah, this one has everything from all of your work in it. It has, the palette from your very first painting. It has the new stuff with the gold leaf. It has the geometrical abstraction, and it has the color-filled work in the middle, which is the water underneath the pyramid structure. This is a lovely painting, and it's amazing. And
thank you.
Anybody who's watching this, if you buy this before I do, I'll be really mad at you.
It is brand new. I just recently finished it.
It's gorgeous. So, Hannah, let's look at one more painting. This is the most recent one, but let's look at the red one that's right by your cursor. Yeah. So this is an interesting painting, which I think is a really interesting.
And that one has silver leaf.
But this one I love because it has elements of the volcano, the mountain, the volcano. It has elements of water or some sort of lava. It has elements of the sky. Plus this is another one of those paintings that has elements of all of your work throughout your career. And I just want to say that we're really proud to be presenting your work here at this in this artsy show. You can see the work.
Well, I'm very pleased to be part of this. Thank you.
It's our pleasure. Your work is on Artsy and First Dibs. It's at the BG Gallery, and it's at Venice website, and it's at veniceICA.org. And your work is amazing, and we're really proud to be presenting this retrospective.
Thank you very much. I'm very pleased to be with you.
How do you feel? I mean, I don't want to be. Do you like you're painting more? It seems like to me, from what I know, you're painting kind of more than ever.
Well, I don't have to earn as much money outside, so I have more energy. But, when time starts to come to your head that it's running out, you want to keep painting. So, and I did describe this, as things ebb and flow, you find, you can't find something exciting, and then you find something that's just a little bit exciting, and then you try to make it even more exciting. And this new gilding with oil paint is really quite an experience. It's kind of been an interesting journey so far. Thank you, COVID.
Well, yeah, and it's interesting how that's shaped people's work. And I do believe that despite your desire not to, sort of use silver and gold leaf as a way to do religious work, I do think your work has a very spiritual quality. It always has.
Oh, yeah.
Your work has a very strong connection to the environment, mostly about the ocean and the sea and the edge of the water and the mountains and stuff.
Definitely.
And it's very, very, very West Coast, Southern California centric, which is why I'm really proud to show it. So I want to thank you.
Well, that's why I stayed here, because I really do love LA. I love LA's surroundings. I like it here.
Well, I really want to thank you for being here. There's tons of other stuff that we can go into, but I think I'll leave that for the next interview. But I want to thank you for being a part of it. I'm really proud to be showing your work. And thank you very much for doing this. And Izzy and Hannah, thank you for doing all your hard work on the show.
Yes, thank you, everyone.
Will be available for everybody to look at online, probably tomorrow on our website, and hopefully soon on the BG Gallery website. And thank you very much. Bravo for being part of this with us.
Thank you very much.
And Gloriane, I love your work. I know a lot of people are going to love your work too. And do you have any comments or anything?
Oh, just wonderful getting that overview, and very proud and excited by this show as well. So
if anybody has any questions at all, we've been talking for a while now, so if anybody has any questions or wants to communicate with the artist, by all means get in touch with either or myself, and let's have a dialogue. And thank you all.